My name is Fraser.
My name is Mark.
And we are the hosts of the geekiest show alive. To the outside world, we're ordinary geeks.
But in the Fab International Studios, we talk comics and find other geeks just like us. This is Geek of the Week.
This is Paul Pass, a section of the show where we take a look at, let's say, a few comics.
Three or four.
We usually do 3, but this week we've got 4, baby. It's usually typically 3 or more. But we take a look at those comics and say whether we would add them to our pull or pass on them. Now, if you're wondering what the term pull means, don't worry, we've got your back. Whether you go into a local comic book store, and let's say you've just seen the Star Wars trailer and you see a load of Star Wars comics, and you're like, I fancy that. You pick up, let's say, a Lando one. You pop it down on the desk and the cashier will say, do you want to add this to your pull? And you say, yeah, sure. Basically, whenever a Lando comic comes out, they will keep it behind the desk for you, keep it safe, so no one else buys your Lando comic, and you're not left with, oh, I've got 1, 2, 3, and 4 of Lando, but then I'm missing 5, 6, 7, so I'll just have to go 9, 10, and it can become very frustrating. Also, what you can do is, we learnt the hard way, is that if you don't do this, you can miss out on your books, is if you know something's coming out in the future. Comic companies are really good at bringing out solicitations. They'll let you know when comics are coming out months and months in advance. You can tell your retailer, hey, I want to add this to my pull, and they'll bring it in.
A pre-pull.
Yeah, sometimes it's really important to do that as well, because, comic book stores, especially smaller ones, can only get in a certain amount of comics. And for some of your indie titles or your smaller Marvel DC titles, we talked about Renew Your Vows the other week, not every comic book store is going to get them in unless they know someone's going to buy it.
True.
So, yeah, 4 comics that we're going to talk about this week. And we're going to start with, always one of my faves, is Symbiote Spider-Man by Marvel, of course. And it's the return of Peter David, who... this is a little thing for you. He wrote the latest Spider-Man 2099 series, and it was really good, but no one picked it up, so it stopped. I picked it up, but...
That's a shame.
I know. Yeah, what did you think of Symbiote Spider-Man? Just to set up the story, this is... they're telling some stories in between Secret Wars, where he picks up the suit, and before it goes to Venom. So it's really cool. It's like a little space in between. What did you think of the book?
Well, for me, this I'm a huge fan of the Big Finish audios, Doctor Who stuff, and they are basically stories set in between canon. They're canon set in between canon television episodes. So there's a huge back catalogue of them, and they're brilliant. They're absolutely brilliant. So as a concept, this is something I like. A modern day story dropped in your canon, and I like that. I really like that as a concept, so I was quite excited for this. And they do really well with references to, cultural references to Muppet Babies and Power Pack and stuff like that. I thought that was really cool. And Mysterio has always been campy but occasionally badass. And they got Mysterio right, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
That's the thing with Mysterio. He's either super badass or he's he's that camp sort of
he was both in this story,
and they managed to find the balance here, which was great. And they mentioned how even Power Pack could beat him. It was hilarious. One in joke I did like was they mentioned the Broadway stuff. They were like, oh, maybe I should do Spider-Man. I was like, maybe I should do Broadway. And it's like, nah, who would watch a Spider-Man Broadway show? And it was like, hey, nice.
It was very clever.
We saw the Human Fly as well, which was funny to see against Spidey. I was like, oh, I like that. But yeah, I think it was a really cool story, and they split it up into chapters, which I really enjoyed as well. It was always I was like, oh my goodness, this is like a mini trade, or like one of those, when you get a big issue and it's got all different stories. And I enjoyed us. We went back and forth from Mysterio and Spidey. The first chapter was about them fighting, and obviously. And then we go back and we see how Peter got to this situation and how how Mysterio got to the situation. It was really cool to see. I liked Mysterio's mate as well. And it's sort of, you got more sympathy for Mysterio for learning, like, how he got into that situation, because he was actually wanting to retire as Mysterio. And then at the beginning, you sort of seen, like, oh no, Peter's the nasty one in this situation, because the symbiote did some bad stuff. And they managed to perfectly get into the time period of that Spidey book.
I thought so.
Because you had Black Cat there, you know, obviously with the black suit, and it was sort of everything that was Spidey in that time period was represented there, which, yeah.
I thought the usage of the World Trade Center was an interesting choice, and it was it was quite brave, but I think it was the right choice because it contextualizes
exactly
the time, and I presume it's been acknowledged in the comic book since that the World Trade Center fell.
Oh, they did this beautiful story about the World Trade Center.
There you go.
It was a specific comic like dedicated towards it, and, you know, helping raise funds. You know, sort of how like the Love Is Love did for the and they have all these obviously New York heroes, and like Spidey's there, sort of just trying to deal with it, and they sort of highlight the true heroes with the fire service that day, and it was a nice touch. And in the first Spider-Man film in Sam Raimi, if you look at a load of earlier trailers,
I was about to say that. So again, it's another reference, because that was cut from the film, quite rightly, that it was cut from the film. That they've put it as like a tribute in this comic book, and that's pretty cool.
Now I want to draw something back. Now this is going to be related to the news, of course. So if you're listening to this on YouTube, check out the news video. So Doctor Who comic, mention it. Yeah. Was Doctor Who a comic book before it was a TV show?
So this is a pass for me. I as much as fun as it was.
So you gave me all that fleck about Star
seriously,
Wars.
Fraser,
and Doctor Who.
we're running out of time. We can talk about this after the show.
No,
stop being.
No, you called it out on air.
It was a specific comic book that was released at that time, and I've already defended this particular thing. You're just wasting time.
I'm just saying. So go on, pull or pass.
Pass. It's a pass.
Really?
Yeah, it is. It's good, but I am enjoying Life Story more. And I pulled Life Story. It's a surprise pass, but I'm enjoying Life Story more. And I read number 2 this week, and it is just phenomenal.
You've got a bit more self-control with Spidey than me, because I'm sort of one of them where like, oh no, I'll choose it. I'm getting enough Spidey with this, where I'm sort of like, oh, all the Spidey I can get, because Life Story was incredible. The stuff Chip Zdarsky's doing with that, because we're in the 70s now, aren't we? And it's
it's brilliant.
And
they did the clone stuff well.
Yeah.
How is that possible?
Limiting it.
Yeah.
Limit the clone stuff, because
it was great.
The thing the 90s went wrong with, because the story happened in the 70s and then they brought it back in the 90s. It started off well, but then they kept going. So if you do it in small doses, I imagine it's just going to be the one comic, because we're going to be in the 80s.
It worked really well. That is an exceptional comic book, and Symbiote Spider-Man was good. Yeah. And at some point I might read the lot in one go, but it's not a pull for me.
Yeah. More shout outs to Chip Zdarsky as well. He's rocking it with Life Story, and he's rocking it with Daredevil. He's also coined the term thick pin instead of kingpin, which is brilliant.
He is quite thick.
And also another shout out for a Marvel book is War of the Realms. It is flying by. It's doing exceptional stuff. We talked about on Pull or Pass, and obviously it was a pull for both of us that time round. And but pull for me on Symbiote Spider-Man. No surprise there. It's a Spider-Man book, of course. Now, another big favourite hero of mine is Robin, more importantly, Nightwing, Dick Grayson. And there's a new writer on it at the moment. So we're talking about Nightwing 59, but don't get too worried like, oh my goodness, what about the other 58? This is a new start of an arc. It's a new start of a writer. And it's a writer I'm really a huge fan of. It's Dan Jurgens, and he's done a lot of Booster Gold stuff. And he always manages to find a way, if Booster Gold's not in the story, if it's not a Booster Gold title, to get Booster Gold in. So he did it recently when he was writing Action Comics. That's how we got to see Booster, and he sort of reintroduced Booster into Rebirth. So got a lot of props for Dan Jurgens. I do like him. The Nightwing book now is it's much more different than the Nightwing I was reading previously. Now I hold my hands up. I'm sorry, I might be destroying the comic book business here, but I was trade waiting with Nightwing because I was reading Titans at the time, and I was getting enough Nightwing.
There's nothing wrong with trade waiting. Everybody does it.
I was getting enough Nightwing monthly that I could wait until the trade came out. I did the same with Flash. I apologise to all. So for me, this was sort of like, right, let's see if I can just go into the single issue things. And they're doing a lot of new stuff. We talked about this ages ago in the news. He's no longer Dick Grayson, he's Rick Grayson. He's got a weird shaved head, and he's formed this team called the Nightwings. And this story sort of focuses on a new recruit, a new Nightwing. That, don't get me wrong, the character's great. I just don't know if it's the Nightwing book I want to read, if that makes sense. But let's get your thoughts on it.
I struggled with this. I remembered halfway through that we had discussed the Dick to Rick thing, and I thought it was a different character.
Yeah.
To begin with, I was like, who's this? Oh.
Rick, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. And as much as, at the time I said it probably needed doing because of the connotations with the name Dick, but now I've kind of changed my mind, I think. I struggled with
just
it.
think Rick Van Dyke. No.
Yeah, exactly. And so for like 6 or 8 pages, I was like, is this Dick Grayson or not?
Yeah.
And it was.
It's hard to tell because it doesn't look like him either as well.
The other character, Hutch, I'd never heard of him.
No, he's a new character, to be fair.
Is he completely new? Was that his debut?
No, he's a new character in the Nightwing series.
Right, okay. I didn't find much there. And the art, I loved. The art reminded me of Frank Miller's stuff, which suits the Batman
epic.
kind of vibe that Nightwing
Batman
has.
world, yeah.
But that's really the only strong point I found, was that I really liked the artwork.
I know.
And I feel bad because I know it's your thing, but it wasn't for me.
Don't feel bad at all, because for me,
very little there for me.
It was one of them. It was a disappointment for me because, I say, I really enjoyed Dan Jurgens' work, and obviously, you know, it's his first issue, and he's having to deal with the stories that he's been left with before. So maybe I might come back to Nightwing when it's Dan Jurgens writing it, and Rick turns back to Dick and actually becomes more of a Nightwing, because this reminds me of, so when I read Nightwing in the New 52, Nightwing changes to just Grayson and he becomes a secret agent, which is really cool, but I didn't want to read that. I wanted to read him as Nightwing, so I actually stopped with New 52 when he stopped becoming Nightwing and became Grayson. And it's that sort of thing again of like, when he's a new character, it's like, I like him as Robin, I like him as Nightwing, so that's what I'm going to read him as. You know what I mean?
I think it's.
I'm a huge Nightwing fan as well. I've got a Nightwing backpack that I carry around everywhere, and it's really nice because whenever someone knows what it is, it's like, hey. Some people think it's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm like, close.
It does look like Agents
of S.H.I.E.L.D. And then someone said, is it a Logan Paul one? I was like, no, Nightwing. But someone this past week was like, hey, it's that Nightwing bag. And I was like, we just became best friends. Or really good friends, to be fair. And they were a cool dude.
I was going to say, Devoed.
they were a cool dude,
Devoed.
so it's fair.
I've been usurped.
So yeah, I'm sorry, mate. No, it's not that.
Move on to the next comic.
Move on. So yeah, this is a
heart's broken.
This is a sad time because I'm gonna have to pass on a Nightwing book, and Mark thinks I've replaced him. The next book we're going to talk about is by Dark Horse, and it's the return of American Gods, and it's also the return of Neil Gaiman on American Gods, which is pretty cool. This is the third.
It's
third
cool
one they're doing,
that Neil Gaiman's back in comics. He's such a busy man who's written so many successful books that he's one of those writers that you thought had probably moved on from comics. So it's nice to see him back.
It was a great return, and it's sort of like you got this style again of American Gods, like the way the panels are set out and the different writings, the illustrations and
I'll
stuff.
be honest, I've never read American Gods at all. I've not watched the TV series, and I struggled with it because of that, but it doesn't mean that I didn't think that it was a good book. It's just I need some context.
Yeah,
I definitely need some context.
Yeah, American Gods, the moment of the storm. Yeah, I found that as well, to be fair, because I've got the audiobook, and it's one of them that I've been meaning to listen to, and obviously the TV show, everyone always raves about it.
I still want to see the TV show.
Yeah, this sort of left me, I think it's in a similar situation to yourself, it left me wanting to go back.
Yes.
More than, and I think that may have been our mistake for putting it putting this on, because I didn't realise until we started reading it that this was going to be the third one of the...
It's not standalone.
Of the series, yeah.
And that's the problem.
But it was a great introduction into the American Gods art style and the way of writing. And
initially, I was like, I don't like this art. But like 5 or 6 pages in, I was like, I really like this art.
It grows on you, doesn't it?
There's definitely an atmosphere created by the art, and it's... Yeah, it grew on me in a huge way as I carried on reading.
Now, you can take this either as a plus or a con. So I was going to read this at night, but then I saw the art, and I was like, no, I can't. You know when you're a bit sleepy, I was like, no, I have to enjoy this art, so I'm going to wait till the morning. So that was a situation for me. And then I think I read another one of the books. I was like, right, no, I'm going to save this one to the morning and fully indulge in it. And I think... You know what? It'd be interesting. Really, we should have picked this up if we were. We might come back to this once we've either watched a telly show.
Maybe put the first volume on Pull or Pass and see how that goes.
Once we've engaged with American Gods,
or put American Gods on Binge It or Bin It.
Yeah, that would be a good one. Once we've engaged with this world more, like either reading the comics, watching the show, there's an actual book about it. Or, the audio, like, once we've engaged with it more, it'd be interesting to see if we would be into this.
I don't think it's fair to call this a pull or pass. I think it's a hold, and we'll get back to you, because...
It's the final arc, isn't it? Well, at the moment...
It's not a fair way to just pick pull or pass. I think we'll put it on hold.
If we're being strict, it's a pass for now.
It is, but with a huge proviso, which is why I hold.
No, pass for now.
Oh...
Pull or pass. It's not pull or pass or hold. Or wait for the trade, or all the other things we always sort of like go with. Because there's that thing in it, when you say pass, it does sound harsh, which is why I think we blabber on a bit or try and find another way to do it, because it's like, no, we're not saying it's bad. We enjoyed reading it. It was just, you're a bit lost, aren't you, with the fit? Which is why I think the art helped, because you're like, oh, this is nice.
Definitely.
And, I read... There's a nice little introduction always in comics, and when I saw Final Arc, I was like, oh, this is going to be... this probably isn't the best time to jump on.
And it wasn't.
No. But if you have read any of this, recommend it. I recommend it. It was a good story, and you will probably make sense of a lot more of the stuff that happens. So I guess it's like trying to jump onto the latest series of Game of Thrones without watching the rest.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that.
The last book we're going to talk about is Fairlady by Image, and this was sort of like one of those nice little fairy tale worlds books. What did you think of the book?
Well, I thought it was stylistically superb. I loved the innovative use of the long panels. I thought that was quite unique, and we talked about how like using different artists is becoming quite common for like different thoughts and things, and that becoming less unique. Whereas I can't think of anyone who uses that at the moment, and I at least noticed something that I thought was unique. So it hasn't been done that much, I don't think.
Yeah, and if it has been done, it's by something you haven't read, and it's one of them.
And it's a concept that's clearly been done with a very deep love and care and preparation, and this is their world that they want you to love as much as they do. There's a real, I feel like there's a real passion behind this book, and you can gather that just from the first issue.
Yeah, it's really cool. What I liked as well was the different creatures and characters we saw. Like, I'm not going to say feline because they'll attack you.
Ooh.
But I liked those characters, and with these fantasy books, I feel like it's really important to establish the world that's in, and obviously you got that fairy tale fantasy vibe from it. Definitely fairy tale, and the creatures that we met were great. It was really cool to see, and it was really there was great characters. It reminded me of one of the animes, but I can't remember which one it is. It might be the one, with the sandwiches and that and stuff like that.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, come on, Mr. Weeaboo over here.
No, Weeaboo. Are you talking about Samurai Pizza Cats?
No. That's a deep Weeaboo cut. I meant like a Studio Ghibli film. But yeah, I liked
My Neighbor Totoro. Is that what you mean?
No, I don't think so.
Anyway.
But we'll keep talking about this book. But yeah, I like... what else did I like? I sort of like the war they were setting up. I also liked that there's... we had like a whole month on like feminism and like in representation in book, and I feel like this is another strong one. I'm just looking now at the sort of like the blurb to sort of sell you on it, and the big thing they put in bold was rat queens and stuff like that. So it's
which I don't like, actually.
Really?
No, I didn't enjoy rat queens.
So it's sort of interesting that they're getting that, and I think it's one of them. The thing that just pointed at, that was just a clear point for me, was just the way Image market their books, if that makes sense, because everything is unique, or everything's almost like a new story, and they all sort of have their ends, whereas like with your Marvel, your DCs, and like you say with Dark Horse, it's always you can say sort of with Dark Horse, you always have your certain properties and we'll always like come back to them, or like something else will happen. But with this, it's sort of like, oh no, this is like one of our previous works, or this is like this, and it's...
Comic books tend to be episodic, with a cliffhanger at the end of each month's book to entice you to buy the next comic book. Whereas Fairlady's gives you at the very start, it says, this is a complete story, and this is what we're going to do. And then in the editorial it says, we're going to do a complete story with every issue.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of brave, because they're relying on how confident they are that this is a cool world, that they don't need cliffhangers, because they think that their product is strong enough that you will always come back for a new story, even if you don't need to know what happened at the end of the last one. That's brave.
I think it's something different as well, because like there's obviously many different types of comic books, but if we're looking at it in a a more narrow way, there is those, like you say, continuous running stories, which is very hard to do, and like we're seeing it more and more creep into film, and we're seeing it not work in film, and we're seeing it work in film. But with these, it's like you say, it's just having one story and knowing, oh, this is just, it's sort of, it leads itself to like sort of trades as well. Like trades is sort of having one complete story. It does help. Yep. It does help for books like this, just because you can get one whole thing and like, oh, that's a complete story, I don't need to worry about anything else, and I can read this and just enjoy it. Like a lot of the books we've been looking on Polar Pass have been like, this is part 1 of 4, this is
yeah.
So it's nice to see, and it's a cool, interesting story. Now it's time for the big question: are you pulling the rest of this story?
Not sure. I really did like it, but I'm a sucker for a cliffhanger. And it was a lovely story, and I enjoyed it. I don't need to pick up the next book because there isn't a cliffhanger, but I kind of want to. So it's probably not a put on my pull, but it is a book that I will buy again, I think.
So pull or pass? I'm going to press you this on it.
I guess it's pass,
but
I'll probably pick up the odd one.
Yeah.
You're right, it's a pass because it's not going on my pull. But it's not a book that I don't want to continue to read at various points. I'll probably pick it up as and when I see it. And I think it's fun, and I won't need to, because they're all complete stories, I won't need to buy it religiously,
Do you think it would be a trade? Like, would you pick up on trade maybe? It might be easy because...
Probably.
It might be easy as well because...
thinking about it.
The people who are going to pull this, if this book is going to be in stores, it's either people are going to pull it and like you're going to have one copy in, and that one copy is going to go to someone, so you're probably not going to be able to relaxly pull it, if that makes sense. You're not going to be able to go in like next month and being like, no, I think it said May 15th was the next issue or something. Oh, that might have been another one, but you know what I mean. You might have to come in a couple of weeks after it's released and be like, oh, it's no longer here. So it might have to be I think for me, this week I put myself at a little thing. I was like, no, you're gonna have to. You keep saying pull on this, and you keep saying, and like you have to sort of be more, almost balanced, but also almost responsible. With great power comes great responsibility. With great comics must also come great responsibility of purchase. So I'm starting to think that I need to be maybe use pull more, maybe use pass more, but also be like less.
It's hard though, isn't it? Because a lot of it is very, very good.
Yeah, and I think that's just an important thing to do. We highlight that the book is great, but for us, we're not going to put it on our pull. And I guess it's also a personal taste thing. So yeah, but if you're into that sort of like fairyland sort of cool creatures kind of world, I'd definitely recommend it. But yeah, for me, it's a pass. But that's our two thoughts. And like we say, at the end of the day, sometimes pull or pass does come to personal taste. So that is why every time we do this, we ask your fellow geeky thoughts. If you check these books out, was it a pull? Was it a pass for you? What else did you check out this week? There was loads of comics out, loads and loads. We unfortunately can't cover them all because it would be a very long show and we would have restless eye syndrome, I think, or something, or our reading skills would improve, but everything else would probably dip it down. We probably wouldn't sleep. We wouldn't be able to.
I don't get enough sleep anyway.
But yeah, what else did you check out this week? Anything you'd like recommend to other fellow geeks? Have you checked out American Gods Eve on TV show, book, audio book, in the comics, and what would you recommend us maybe delving into if we wanted to get back to the moment of the storm and sort of give it another chance? And yeah, all your thoughts, either on a Facebook discussion group, Twitter, or YouTube comment section, which will be found behind the YouTube version of this in video form. But yeah, that is Pull or Pass for issue 27.
To listen to Geek of the Week, be sure to tune in next week. Same geek time, same geek channel.
And if you want to follow us on social media, it's at GOTW Radio on Twitter. Search for Geek of the Week Radio Show on Facebook. And to listen again, it's www.mixcloud.com/Geek of the Week Radio Show.